Do you love Forex trading? Do you also love to play Atari? If both of those things just happen to be true, boy do I have something to show you today. It's the Renko Charts video, traders. Get it? It's time. Fairly highly requested video, this one was, and I thought this was a good place to put it, and you will understand why more towards the end. Now, the intro might make it seem like I don't like Renko. That's not true. You just need to be fully aware of what you're getting into here because it is so different than anything you've been dealing with up until now. So in this video, what we definitely will not be doing is showing you how to install Renko. It is a pain in the ass, especially for techie challenged people like myself. So if you guys want to talk about it in the comments section, if you just want to be a big boy and a big girl and run a Google search and figure it out on your own, like I did, you can also do that too. But this is not the video where we will be covering that. You have to install this on whatever platform you like yourself and go from there. But once you have done that, we're going to talk about what Renko actually does. Some of you know, some of you are checking this out for the first time. So we're going to briefly go over that. Then we're going to go over the pros and cons. There are absolute pros and absolute cons here. You have to, one, know what they are, and two, be able to kind of weigh them out and decide if this is a route that you want to go. Because if you do go this route, there is a very unique opportunity ahead of you, and we will talk about that as well, and you are definitely going to want to be around for that. But let's go ahead and start getting into what Renko actually is and some of the problems it solves. First of all, it makes everything really dumb, but not necessarily in a bad way. So it doesn't work like regular charts at all. You know, it's almost like forget everything you know about standard chart reading because it just operates on a different playing field. It uses something called Renko bars, and each of these bars represents a fixed number of pips, and that number is totally up to you. Now, once you've set it, that's where it is until you change it. Every bar will represent the exact same number. So if you set it at 10, it's all going to be 10. If you set it at 50, it's all going to be 50. They must all be the same number. Now, this makes Renko charts ridiculously easy to read and understand. This can be a good thing, this can be a bad thing. But let's dive just a little deeper. Other things you need to know on this is when deciding where to set your number, lower numbers are typically for scalpers because scalpers want these candles, these Renko bars, I should say, to form quickly so they can get in and make decisions and not sit there and have to wait for it. It's not really good for daily traders at all, as we will soon talk about. If you have really bought into the no-nonsense Forex way of trading and you have grown to love only having to trade 10-15 minutes a day just by looking at your charts one time a day, this is definitely not going to be for you. But because you have gotten to the point to where you only have to trade 10-15 minutes a day, that might leave a lot more free time, and that free time can be spent on Renko if you really want to do the work. You're going to really want to stick around to the end here, but we need to understand how these candles form first. For those of you who don't have experience with this or don't have a lot of experience with this, it's not always what it seems on the surface, and we need to understand this before we move on. So let's go ahead and go to my charts where I have this already set up. Expand, and here we go. So this is what Renko looks like. This is dollar yen, and Renko has no time frame. Renko bars are Renko bars. It doesn't care what time frame you are dealing with. It is on its own plane. Now, when you download this and apply it to your chart, it might tell you, hey, you need to apply this to a 1-minute chart, and then end up putting it on a 2-minute chart that doesn't even exist. Don't worry about stuff like that. That's just the weirdness of the programmer that made this. All you care about is getting this on your chart. Now, I set every one of these bars to represent 10 pips. So the black ones are 10 pips this way, and the white ones are 10 pips going short. But it's not always 10 and 10. This is what you have to know. Let's go over here to the very last bar we have. Now, the very last full Renko bar that is formed is this white one here. That's a short bar. This one here has yet to form. Now, this is how it's going to form. Since I have it set at 10, we take the close of this bar right here. We need to know, will this Renko bar travel 10 more pips short? Because if it does, the second it does, it's going to form another one of these. But to form a black bar, a long bar, from where it closed, it needs to actually travel 20 pips in the other direction. All right? It's not 10 one way, 10 the other way. It's 10 if you want this to continue. But if it's going to give you a different color bar, and I guess reverse, you could say, it has to cover this 10 pips here and then go another 10 pips beyond that. That's the biggest thing with Renko. It's not, if you set it at 10, it's not 10 one way, 10 the other way. It's 10 if it's continuing, but it's 20 if it's reversing. All right, this really does come into play, especially when you're trying to figure out how to enter and, more importantly, how to exit. But just purely on the surface, look how easy this is to read. A black bar is 10 pips up, a white bar is 10 pips down. And, this is why people like it so much, because they don't have to worry about all the other stuff that we see. They can just focus on the movement itself and catching some of these trends, which is the overall goal. Really easy to do if you just have to worry about what bar is coming next and not worry about anything else. Pretty darn nice in that regard, because nothing filters out noise quite like Renko does. If charts, even at this point in the game, still seem kind of daunting to you, and you just want to know if price is going up or down and try to figure out if it's going to continue to go that way or not, Renko charts are right up your alley. That's pretty much why they were created. I know of and hear from people that have watched every one of these videos and read every one of my blogs, and there are still things on the chart that distract them and confuse them. So this is really a nice little alternative here. And speaking of noise, our old friend from the podcast, the Las Vegas wind, is back. So let's hope we can keep that at bay as we move forward, because now that you know, or have a pretty good idea, I hope I explained it the best I could, of how Renko bars actually work, we can move on to the pros and cons. So definitely one of the pros is how it filters out noise. Once you filter out all that noise, you can actually focus on the things that you really want to focus on, which is how to get the best entries and how to get the best exits. It's one of the biggest reasons I love indicators, because indicators tell you exactly what to do. So once you've gotten that part out of the way, you can actually focus on the things that really matter. And speaking of things that don't matter, especially if you're kind of brand new to Forex trading, let me tell you, being able to pretty much wash away things like trend lines and Fibonacci's is awesome, because they make no sense at all when it comes to really Forex trading in general, but especially on Renko charts. They just have no place, so you will not be tempted to use them. You will not at any point in time be tempted to think that maybe trend lines and Fibonacci really was the way to go from the start, because they don't even make sense on charts like this. And that's good. More noise that you can just filter out. But here's what I think is a really, really great bonus pro to Renko, is that your money management is pretty much built in. Are you having trouble deciding where to scale out? Do you not have a great idea of where your trailing stop should go? Are you struggling to find a good exit indicator? Well, here's some good news. None of those things matter when you're trading Renko charts. You make the rules in advance. You say, okay, I'm going to trade this thing until the candle switches. or I'm going to trade this thing until the candle switches and then happens again. As long as you stay consistent to those rules, you don't have to worry about anything in regards to actual money management when it comes to managing your trade, because it is all right there. Now, you may not know what kind of rules you want to set right away, but just play around with it. It doesn't take long to figure out what is probably going to be the best route for you to take here. We already know here at No Nonsense Forex how important money management is. It is pretty much everything. And if you can just, one, have a structure in place, because most people don't, you are already miles ahead of the competition. And if you can find a money management system on Renko that works really well and doesn't require things like trailing stops and exit indicators and things like that, you are miles ahead of pretty much everybody here. Because not only is something like that just a pip factory, it is an absolute luxury to have something like that. So once you figure out at what point you're going to enter and what point you are going to exit, you pretty much don't have to worry about anything else, except for one of the things on the cons. But first, a couple other cons. First off, it's not always as great as it first looks. People see this for the first time and they're like, wow, that is so easy. Where has this been all my life? I'll just blindly follow Renko and I'll make a ton of money. But let's go back to the charts and look a little bit deeper, and I'll show you what I mean by this. All right, back to dollar-yen Renko chart. Yeah, looks like this candle still hasn't figured out where it wants to go yet, but that's fine. We are at a slow time of day. But what I want to show you is, you have to decide. Like I said, you have to set these rules ahead of time. You can't just adjust them as you go. That's going to kill you. You need to have hard set rules before you even start entering and exiting trades here. Now, if your entry rule is, okay, I am just going to enter a trade every time the candle changes color, really bad idea, because I'm going to tell you, in places like this and places like this, because you have to go twice as many pips the other way for a new colored candle to form, places like this are going to absolutely chew you up. I mean, even if you get that and get that, this is going to more than offset it. And you're going to see a lot of pretty little trends on this, but you're also going to see these points to where you're going to get completely eaten alive. So that's not always the best idea. You're probably going to have to become a little more creative than that. So let's say you want to be a trend trader on this, and you're like, all right, well, maybe not after the first color change, but on the second color change. Maybe I'll enter right there. And if I did that here, I got all of this. Slow down. You did not get all of this. Because how were you going to exit? Are you going to exit when the candle changes back? Because that's what most people will do. If you just did that, you would not get all of this because you would be exiting right here. So if you entered here, instead of getting all this pippage here, you would only get these 3 bars. You would only make 30 pips in this situation. And that's still a nice trade, especially if you're only setting these bars on 10. But it's not as cool as you thought it was when you first saw this, was it? You got to have rules. You got to have rules that make sense. And if you do that, you're not going to get all of these beautiful trends that you see. You're only going to get some of it. And when you get caught up in stuff like this, it's really easy to give some of it back. Now, if you were to get all of it, you'd probably come out ahead, but you just don't. There's no perfect way to do this. You're going to have to sit there and figure out what's the best way for you. But in the end, don't get allured by these huge trends because you're never going to get them all, just like in real Forex. But because these things are so much easier to see when it comes to things that actually trend, we get really excited when we first look at it. We're like, wow, 8, 9 bars, I'm going to get all of that. I just got to wait for the color to change. Not so fast. It's not going to work that way long term. You're going to get some of it, but you're going to have to give a lot of it back too. Now, another con that you need to be really aware of is this is not very adjustable. Like, you know that every currency pair has different volatility. Some currency pairs are 3 times as volatile than others are. So this is fine. You can set your bars accordingly. But as all of you know, when you put the ATR up on your screen, for example, that volatility changes. Day by day, week by week, hour by hour, depending on where you're trading. And sometimes these bars are not going to make a whole lot of sense unless you're able to adjust this every single time volatility does. Setting your Renko bars at 10 or 20 is probably fine right now while the market's been really slow. But as soon as it ramps up, those bars are going to be coming hard, and you're probably going to wish you set them at a higher number. So when you go all in and you say, okay, I'm going to set my bars here, you are pretty much married to that number, because sitting there and trying to adjust it up and down is really going to mess with your trading overall. And it's going to ruin a lot of the consistency that you are aiming for when you try trading Renko charts. What I love about the system we put together here at No Nonsense Forex is it is completely adjustable to whatever the market is doing. And achieving this is going to be very hard if you choose to go the Renko way. But here is the main con for me, and the one I referenced earlier, is these bars are cool and all, but only if you're actually around for these trades. You're going to miss a lot of these trades because there is no time frame for them. 10 pips is 10 pips. Whenever that change occurs, whenever those 10 pips happen, this is going to result in a lot of missed trades because you have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to work. You're not going to be around all the time. Time frames are not a thing on Renko. It doesn't matter how high or low you set your bars. So when you go back and backtest and check out some of these Renko charts on these different currency pairs and say, wow, look at all those cool trades I would have been a part of, understand that you were probably not going to be a part of at least half of them, unless you start setting stop orders and limit orders and things like that. And now you're starting to deal with support and resistance and price levels, which we here on the channel do not endorse. So you have some tough decisions to make here. But just understand that if you do decide to go this route, and you do put some of these decisions in place, there is some real opportunity here, especially if you are followers of this channel already or choose to be. Allow me to explain. So here, we use indicators heavily, and often some very uncommon indicators, because the common ones, one, often don't work very well. And there's just an ocean of other indicators that work a lot better. And it's just a matter of going out and finding them. That's a big part of what we do here. But here's the crazy part. When it comes to Renko, every indicator you use operates completely different. Because of the way the bars are formed on Renko, the data these indicators are receiving are totally different than they would be on a standard chart. Far more often than not, these indicators are receiving data from the high, the low, or the open and the close of certain candles. And those numbers on a standard chart are going to be completely different than they will be on a Renko chart. So if you joined this channel and you saw all these totally brand new possibilities with all these other indicators that you didn't even know existed before, once you add the fact that they all operate differently on Renko, the opportunities are endless. I mean, this is like the last frontier. Take all of the possibilities that you just had your mind opened up to just by being a part of this channel and pretty much double it. You can come up with combinations that no man has ever seen before. I mean, this is where the Holy Grail might have been hiding the whole time. I noticed this right away when I had my little brief stint in Renko charts, is that I was able to come up with some really cool combinations using indicators that I completely dismissed in the past. I'm glad I kept them around because they didn't work really that well on standard charts, but they actually worked really well when I plugged them into Renko. Who knew? So we'll come back to this one more time. And I know you can't see it because it's cut off, but this is just your regular fast stochastic with a 533 setting. And you will see this movement on other charts a little bit, but nothing is going to look exactly like this because Renko charts don't even have a time frame. They just do what they do, and these indicators will follow it based on the data they are giving. So if you don't like stochastics, and you should not because they don't work very well, there might be opportunities here. They might just work better. I can tell you now they really don't. But this is just one example. It's going to move and operate differently here than it is anywhere else. And sometimes that's a really great thing. Because now if you find a good one, instead of guessing when you're going to enter a trade, whether it's going to be right after the color changes or 2 bars after the color changes, you can just do what the indicator tells you to do. Combining the simplicity of Renko charts with the accuracy of a really good indicator once you've tested them all out, that's a hell of a combination. And the built-in money management Renko gives you. That's a crazy good combination. And you can achieve this if you are willing to put in the time. Let's talk about that. So not everybody is a great candidate to test out Renko charts. It takes a particular category of human beings. So what I would recommend if you want to do this, you should probably be somebody who has some time on their hands. I mean, you guys know how long it takes to test these indicators out just on the regular standard charts that we all use here on the channel. You're going to have to do this again, all over again with Renko. So make sure you have some time. It does help to be young because you guys don't realize it, but you have so much time that if you spend like an entire year doing this and don't find anything, then that's fine. A year off of your life is different than somebody who's in their 50s or 60s and tries this out. For a lot of you younger people, the juice is typically worth the squeeze here. But I've also met a lot of people, no matter how old you are, who just really like doing this stuff. They like trying to program different indicators or try to come up with these crazy combinations that work. You have a completely different playing field to go play on now. And for a lot of people like this is really great news. But just realize that nobody's in this pool. This channel has, a good amount of subscribers. There are people who are doing things our way. And there are also a good handful of people who are doing Renko charts, but nobody is combining the two. So what you have is possibly completely uncharted territory. This is almost like a landmass on Earth that has not even been discovered yet, and you get to go discover it. Could there be gold in the ground? Could there be a flower there that cures cancer? Could there be absolutely nothing? Who knows? But who would not want to take the chance to go find out? Because at the beginning, for people who were all trading the way everybody told you to trade, you had the chance to get out of that pool and into another pool that was completely empty. And now you get the chance to do that again. There's a lot of people trading our way now, which is fine. But you can even kind of depart from us and go your own way now and still take all of the techniques and things that I teach on this channel. That's a pretty sweet opportunity, as long as you have the time and are willing to spend it. So in conclusion, I hope everybody understands now what Renko charts are and what Renko bars do. It's not as simple as it is. It's not always the easiest thing to explain. So I hope I was able to do that for you. And also understand just what it is, but what it is not. There are downsides to it. You got to be around. You have to know that you're not always going to get all those beautiful trends that you see on the surface. That's just not reality because you can't time any of this stuff out. So temper your expectations, but also understand that even with those tempered expectations, there's some real opportunity out there. You can go out there and do things that nobody has ever done. The possibilities are definitely out there, But all at the same time, know that it may end up uncovering nothing. So make that decision, but just know that that decision is there and it is available for you if you want it. We here at the channel will continue to give you all the great information we can so you can apply those to any type of charts you want to apply them to. Do not miss out on any of that information. Subscribe and hit the bell. And in the meantime, while markets are dead, go play around with this. Check out the comment section of this video. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people there willing to help you go to places where you can install Renko on your platform and maybe even show you how to do it, because that is the one thing we didn't cover here. But regardless, traders, there is one common thread in all these videos, and that is the fact that none of this works unless you put in the work. Don't let slow markets slow you down. Embrace the opportunity to continue to focus on finding that great combination that you are going to have the rest of your life, regardless of which chart you use. Go get it.